Anybody here from Lee today?
I'm not aware.
She's
Getting on Zoom, huh?
I would imagine she'd be able to. Hi, Lee.
There she is.
Can you hear us, Lee?
Yes, I can. Thank you.
Good, we can hear you.
That's awesome.
Good job.
Looks like everything's connected and we have a quorum. Let's begin this meeting. I think the order of the agenda is what we'll follow. Seeing a compelling reason to change the order. So, do we want to start with introductions? Does everybody know who everybody is? Start with you, Yvette. You heard this go.
Okay, Yvette Renee, staffer for this committee.
Hi, I'm Robin Riando and I'm a consultant on the sign project.
I'm John DeBelta. I'm the chair of the CDAC for this year, at least. The next person over has stepped out for a minute is Ian McConnell.
I'm John Scribner, member of the CDAC committee.
I'm Brent Colonis, I'm a interested bystander.
Great, thank you for being here tonight.
And I'm Wendy Rose, former member of the CDAC committee and interested in the projects.
And I'm Lee Parker. I'm a member of the CDAC committee as well.
Thanks, Lee.
Thank you.
I'm Jason Lambro, I'm the Recreation and Community Services Director, and I also staff the Age-Friendly Voting Committee, who had some input for this as well.
Deb Smith, I'm part of the Age-Friendly Committee.
To enjoy select board.
All right, thank you very much.
And David, yay.
This is David Rasmussen from Bluebell Farms.
Hi.
All right, so the next thing we'll talk about is the overview of the Cora grant project. And I'll turn that over to Yvette.
Yep. So this fall, the Community Development Advisory Committee was successful in getting a grant from the Maine Office of Tourism, the CORA grant, which is the Community Outdoor Recreation Assistance Recovery Grant. And it is to design and install interpretive and wayfinding signs at the two parks. So there's actually two types of signs that we're getting under this grant. One is wayfinding signage, which is something that we're doing with Community Geo. Age Friendly, if you don't know, was able to get Enoch Glidden, who's a well-known accessibility trail assessor, I guess is what I would say. And their entity is going to be looking at including signage throughout the park trail system, the new trails that will be created, then the Cathants Meadow trails. And so that's things like mile markers, information about grade and type of terrain, some things like that, but also overseeing accessibility for the wayfinding signage, which is what we'll talk about, or the interpretive signage, which is what we'll talk about tonight. And there was a process with that we did this fall with a request for proposal. Banana Banners won the contract, and this is the first phase of the project, which is the design. We're going to follow up at the end to tell you more about the next steps, but after we conclude the design project, we're going to put out another RFP in the summer for the actual fabrication, and then they'll be installed in the summer. So I think I'll turn it over to Robin.
So in this beautiful packet that Yvette made, there are some cheat sheets, some examples of interpretive signage. And also suggested locations where, and basically why why every park needs interpretive signage. And I did a little research and read what the National Park Service says, and they state that site-specific interpretation is vital to learning, understanding, and finding value in this area's past, present, and at the same time generating future activity. And we want people to return here, right? We want them to love it. We want them to know why they love it. We want them to know why you love it, and we want them to come back again and bring their kids, and it all goes on. So basically, we have decided that with the interpretive signs, there should be. Well, should we go back to the location of the map, the two existing signs that are at Melee? Those are going to be replaced. They've sort of reached the end of their lifespan and they'll be replaced. So the vision of this project is to have 2 or 3 signs that have information on them that is going to be helpful for visitors to the park at Melee, and then 2 signs at the new waterfront park,
Oh,
and
there's
then
more than 2.
2 or 3, and then
It's up to
signs
like
along
10
the
to
trail.
12.
Okay,
12 throughout the whole.
nice, so throughout the whole. And then we'll also have some smaller signs along the trail. I hope we can do that. And maybe in that, we'll discuss more of the environmental and the flora, fauna type things tucked into the trail as to not be in people's faces. I guess the 3 kinds of signs that I'm hopefully helping on will be trail markers for the trail itself. And a bulletin sign for the trail that will have interchangeable copy. And tonight, we're talking about all the interpretive signage that connects you folks to the town and gets everybody excited about being here, basically. So things to think about, those locations of those signs, kind of as a, I don't know, while you're thinking about the story you want to tell, you want to think about where you're standing, what you're looking at. And I guess I would just ask of you, when you come to the waterfront and when you stand on the shore, what really moves you? And what do you think would be the most interesting story that somebody could come and read and be like, wow, that's really cool. I didn't know that about Bodenham, or something that's very important about the ecological space that we have that's very unique in Merrymeeting Bay. Maybe someone knows something about animals and the habitat here, all sorts of things. So kind of just want to throw that out, because I think every person in the room has a different experience with the waterfront and their connection to Bodenham. And it's the common connection that's going to make the signs be really effective. Like, I'm pretty sure I can make the signs, and I can make the design for the signs appropriate. I can certainly choose the right fonts. I can certainly do all the technical piece, but I need input from everyone here. So hopefully we'll get that tonight. And I think our plan was to give you the magic markers and have fun and start writing your stories. And if you're not comfortable with that, maybe take notes or come talk to me and tell me what's
Well, I thought we'd
important.
go through each of those areas, and I can go up there and kind of take your feedback, and we can kind of do each of those as a group. And then I also have these large prints here, if you want to come up and actually like mark, because I forgot to mention, sorry, I know you have a question. Kennebec Estuary Land Trust is also a sub-awardee on the grant, and they're going to create the language about the flora and fauna, but we need you guys to tell us what's interesting and that kind of thing, and they will get like the proper scientific information about it all. And so if you wanted to, mark up these maps, we'll take them too. Do you have a question?
I thought I would just start with the replacement of the maps for the water down already at Melee. Those will be replaced. Are we trying to coordinate replacing those with the style in any way? Is there a relationship between the styles of the two or anything, or will we just replace?
We're doing it
the,
all
I feel-
together now.
We're doing everything together,
Okay.
so the style will be the same
So the style will be
throughout.
consistent throughout,
And consistent.
and the timing will be, the signs
Yes.
will be put up about the same time?
Yes,
Okay,
yes.
thank you.
So I don't think there's anybody more knowledgeable about flora and fauna than Ed Friedman, especially hands to Miramichi Bay. So I know he's different than Kelt, and they don't always talk together, but I'm hoping Ed is gonna be consulted as well about that particular aspect. He knows about the flow of the river, he knows about the return rate of water, he knows about all the fish ad nauseum, and so I don't know anybody who's a better expert on that aspect.
I like the, excuse me, Debbie, I like the idea of the stories and historical events, like just the history of that waterfront.
Mhm.
That is just fascinating. I mean, the Fides have been there, places down there, their businesses. I worked with the descendant of that
Sorry,
family.
what you,
The Fides that used to own the condiment house. That's where they lived here in town. It's a family, Fides, it's a family. And what they owned several businesses there, or I'm sorry, I don't know.
Ask me
the-
and Frank,
No.
the expert.
Frank,
There is
would you
in the
know?
room.
Is
The-
that Malay or both parks?
I'm sorry,
His family
yeah, where the new park is going.
with a new.
Yeah, it would have been along in there, but there were just big, like a shipyard and all kinds of neat things there.
And we might not, do we care if it's the family name or the business?
Yeah, just the history of the businesses that were.
Was the
along there.
shipyard where the Sea King was built?
Yes, probably.
We had talked about having.
Yeah. I mean,
Information
that-
about the
I mean,
ship.
walk along and read
Pretty
that,
interesting.
yeah, the history of that sort
Yeah.
of thing, I love that.
Because I think a lot of people are really unaware of it, but to be a shipbuilder.
Mhm.
Right.
You know,
Yes.
that's pretty interesting.
I think we could even stay general, because we need to
Yeah.
consider on every single
Yeah,
one of
that's
these
true.
signs.
Right,
We have attention for about 45 seconds,
sure,
and after that, it's gone,
they're
so.
not like me that read every
Oh.
long sign.
Some people will, but in order to make it, first of all, visually accessible for everyone.
Yeah.
And also, quick enough so that they're not bored by the third part of the history there, so. But I think that's a great one. I just found out about the Sea King, like this week, like, really? There's a ship I never knew this. I've been here for 30 years now, and why didn't I know? It's very cool. Anyway.
Yeah, a historical photo in that same location, I've always found to be a pretty interesting way to engage with history.
Mhm.
Portland down by the ferry terminal, they have a picture from the dock looking out from back in the day, and I think there are some old photos that are located from the shore and looking down the shore in your current place, you can look down at the thing, and it's an old black and white of all the different wooden piers and ships, and then you look up and it's the trees that is now, I think that's a
Well, that's a great point.
interesting
That
way
is,
to.
that's a great idea.
And then.
That'd be a great visual, wouldn't it?
Mm-hmm. Do we have that photo?
Yeah.
Right?
It's in that book.
So if you divide that, you can divide that whole area kind of in a, if you go to the. Area between. Maley Park and the branch. That used to be a sawmill and kindling wood factory, there's pictures of both of those. That's kind of out of the park. Now, does that, this area?
It'd be like behind the gazebo, right?
The town, this is Sampson's Creek. And this is the area, the kindling wood factory was right about in here, the sawmill was behind it, steam sawmill. And the shipyard was built in this area about where the gazebo is. We do have pictures of the Sea King, we have pictures of the St. Lucie. I think you saw that picture of there's a photograph that's taken in 1912. And it was taken from this area and it's looking towards the town hall. It's actually a composite of 5 black and white photographs. And you could stand anywhere in this area and look into that picture, into that photograph or display if you want to do it. And pick out the landmarks like the town hall and the churches and stuff. Beyond that was on the other side, the new area used to be the Saginaw fertilizer.
Mhm.
The Fides family owned it last. But it was developed by the Kendall brothers. And then it became the Saginaw fertilizer, but the the historical name would be the Kendall brothers. Ed and up there, I think, that's Bill. One of those pictures. Yeah. And so that was a huge. You remember the people right building?
Yeah.
Yeah, so that was right about here. And beyond that was the Long Branch Sheep Farm. And that would be up in this area, and it would pretty much. The Eureka fly killer business was in there. But that's getting kind of.
So instead of the signs, maybe we should just hire you on to be a tour guide.
Yeah.
24/7. I think that's a
Yeah,
good
yeah.
plan.
Main Central Railroad had a depot, which a lot of people don't know about anymore. And they also had gate crossings. The original privy that was built down there was built to look like the crossing guard's shack. He was responsible for the crossings on Main Street and Center Street. And the Gillingham factory. So they had 2 crossings. So, the sawmill was really cool because you could access it by railroad, you could access it by boat. And you could access it by vehicle. So, and we got some great pictures for that.
Excellent. Seems like both sites have some deep historical meaning there.
Oh, yeah, you really don't.
And that-
I mean, if you look at this area, it looks, it's just brush and
Mhm.
bamboo, but it was a very significant part of
The shipbuilding.
the Modenham waterfront. The shipbuilding was over on this side, which was,
Is there a tide mill at the bridge?
yes, it was, yeah. Right there.
All right.
That would spin both ways.
It was,
Yeah, me.
it was I think it was about a 45-minute
Vital.
transition to high tide, low tide.
Downtown.
Which I think it switched manually.
Was there, ice cutting and ice storage? in
Sure.
Woodham?
Sure, okay. I'm moving chair over here. Can't give you the year, but at one time, the Can-Ants River was the 6th largest producer of ice in the United States.
Wow.
And we could provide you with tonnage and stuff like that. The biggest ice house was right about where Jimmy's camps are. And
Do a picture of that.
we do, yeah.
Awesome.
And the bridge itself is worthy of something, because we had an old wooden king post bridge, it was a toll bridge. And then there was the old cast iron bridge, or the Brooklyn Bridge, which is why that area is called Brooklyn today. Because Bodenham bought a used bridge from.
Of course they did.
In New York City,
Yeah. Rufus Dickinson provided the loan to the town, those were the days. And, so, let's see. Railroad, sawmills, there's great shots of the Killingwood factory, which is basically what the Killingwood factory was, is they took the all the waste, or a lot of the waste from the sawmill. Ran it through a kiln. And put it in little bags and sold it for nickel bags and 25-cent bags for starting coal fires. 100 years ago, everybody was burning coal, so. Nice pictures of that, that's a good story.
So how to get all that information on the.
Yeah.
Well,
Thinking, oh, I
if
could
you
do
had,
more
if you asked me
stuff.
to pick pictures, I would say you start with the one that was taken in 1912. And it in original size, it's probably 3 feet long, and you could, I don't know what you do about dimensions and stuff like that, but you could, I mean, that's the most, that shows the railroad station, it shows the bridge. So,
That would be great. We're thinking 2 by 3 for the signs with the most verbiage, and then. One of those will be a map of Merry Meeting
Sure.
Day, but,
yeah,
the other informational signs.
yeah.
Thinking that's a good size, and then smaller for the signs that go in and along the trail. It's my suggestion.
There's
Does it make any sense to have some of these pictures stored someplace else that have QR codes on the signs? Is that
Yeah, we're talking about QR codes.
for other things too?
Sure.
So if you had to find out more about the
Right.
blah, blah, blah,
Mhm.
blah, 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 here's a place where those pictures.
We talked about that today, as a matter of fact. Yes.
Could that just be a link to the town website
Mhm.
with this
That's what we're
information on it?
thinking.
Because I think that would engage people in a different way as
Yeah.
well. Interesting enough to go
Yeah.
do more research.
So the other picture could be, you could have a picture of the shipbuilding. It's actually a great picture, it's not the Sea King, it's the St. Lucie. And it's parked right at the foot of Main Street. And again, it looks into the village, so it provides a real deep view. And this picture of the Kenilworth factory, there's a good picture of the sawmill had a tall, probably a 30 or 40-foot brick chimney to provide the steam, to produce the heat of the steam. And so we have a nice picture of that also. But you don't really have any trails over that area, do we? Yeah,
Not yet.
maybe you ought to.
And I think you put a trailer.
One of the features of the sawmill was that a good high tide would take out all the wood waste and the sawdust. So you might have a little problem over there, but.
Be careful with the sign.
At the end of Pleasant Street, or if you want to put some signs that, do they have to stay in this area, or can they go?
We're just focused on the 2 parks right now.
Yeah, okay.
Future.
But that would work if we had something by the gazebo.
Yeah,
Talking
yeah,
about
still within the-
facing
Yeah. it's still
that
within the-
area,
Absolutely, yeah.
right? Would that work, Fred?
So this area this used to be called Sampson's Creek, is the historical name for it. And it had wharves on both sides. You could, they could bring small schooners up in there, it's kind of hard to believe when you look at the area now, but.
Yeah.
These brooks used to have a really good flow to them. Compared to what there is now. And this area used to be called Puddle Dock, the little area by the gas station. And there used to be gondolas, and we have pictures with gondolas and fishing boats docked in there. It used to be a wooden bridge, wasn't it, that you could go right in.
So if the Kinlinwood factory and the sawmill,
Yeah,
if we
you could do.
placed a sign by
Yeah,
the
do something
gazebo
right
sort
there.
of in the park and faced it
In that direction, sure.
toward that direction,
Yep,
would
sure.
that make sense for people to
Sure.
connect that
You
land?
might even put it on the side of the gazebo or something.
Yeah, off
Um,
to the side, we don't wanna be in the way of the fantabulous musicians in town.
Well, it's not.
We'll move it over,
Um,
but I think that would be great.
if you do some brush cutting and stuff in that area, you'll see there's still some pilings and stuff from the old war.
Yeah.
Well, if you try to get a canoe up through there, you'll find them too. So,
Yeah.
All
Alright,
right,
thanks. That's awesome. So we'll have to have a date with Frank. to get-
Oh, yes.
Get that info, right?
That'll be
Well,
good.
we've been looking through the book a little bit. It just-
Yeah,
We need to get the digital copy of the book and that's been a little bit of
oh,
a challenge. But
okay.
we'll get it. We know where the computers live, but we need to have the.
Yeah.
I don't think that. Temple photograph is the name, some of the other ones are.
Because a lot of the stories are in that book.
Oh, yeah,
Yeah.
I think
Yeah.
it's a huge treasure trove
Yeah.
for this project.
Yeah.
The. If I have one of these,
Yeah.
Mhm.
this is probably one of the neatest shots of Notre Dame and probably one of the earliest. And it was taken from Clay Hill, out the back of, who lives up there now? Sally, thanks. Saw her neighborhood. Anyway, it shows the sawmill, shows the chimney, shows the town hall, the steeple on it. The, shows the St. Lucie, which is waiting to go out, and, so that's certainly worthy of,
Yeah, for
and
sure.
good reproduction of that. too.
So you have the physical.
Historical side, yeah.
Okay, okay. So we really don't need the digital copy of the book to get started on design.
No,
Because I think
But I
we
think that's.
could
if we
do
could
maybe
get
one or
that-
two, at least to get
Okay.
started.
You
Yeah.
get better resolution if you retake it from the original if you can.
Page 26.
Okay,
I should have gone through this book, or I came up with it, I'm sorry. Page 26. Was the original, fertilizer mill, and it was created from old houses. The one that's on the bottom of 26. And on 27. It's the interior picture of the saw of the fertilizer mill. And the fertilizer mill from the Central Chemicals. Central Chemical came along from after Saginaw. Fertilizer went away.
I would like to go back quickly to the sheet as well.
Mhm.
It seems appropriate since Goldham is so focused on farming now. That's a great reference to that the sheep were kind of down. Past where we're gonna have trails. Goldham is well known for its sheep and wool.
Can I jump in again?
yeah,
The the Kendall brothers used to keep sheep in some of the houses in the wintertime. That's how a lot of Bowdenham's good old houses went away. And they actually gathered the sheep manure in the springtime and bagged it, sold it. And no. The Long Branch Sheep Farm, that's what that kind of was. It was where they pulled all that stuff together.
oh,
I don't really know of a good picture of Long Branch Sheep Farm. It was always kind of a shabby little shed thing.
well,
We can do
if
it.
we didn't have a picture, you could tell the story,
Probably,
would be okay,
sure.
I'd like that, and connect it to the farming, I think that's a great idea.
There's newspaper clippings that says Bowdenham had more sheep than any other town east of Mississippi at one time, so. It's cool. And we have some good photographs of the Kendall sheep farms
Okay,
and some of the sheep.
I like that.
And what we often think of with the stone walls, low stone walls, the property markers were actually to keep the sheep in. They were pasture edges rather than property markers specifically. But probably have a stone wall here or there.
We have a really nice double stone wall up on Ridge next to our house. Which, you know, that little short on public television about stone walls. And she mentions how the double ones were for
Yeah.
guiding the cows up to the barn. It's very obvious, it's a very obvious double stone wall. And it's page 2 and 3, that's that big long photo that Frank was mentioning, Robin.
We move on to the.
Yeah, next category.
I wanted to mention, in your packet, you have the map of the trail system. And earlier today, I talked to somebody in town who brings his 4-year-old daughter on site. And I have noted some spots, that I wanted you guys to know are in the notes. Basically, up in like the top left-hand corner, the tree stand up there. This might be hemlock and old growth pine. So if there's something about old growth and hemlocks specifically, that's something, I guess to note. I would just verify all of that with the folks who know. That was one thing. Another was, basically at that first kind of triangular junction there. And Kelt's gonna come out in the springtime to verify things when they're actually growing up and all of that, but native winterberry, there's some other native plants that berry there, and then also we couldn't figure out what the name of this thorny bush was, but that's about bird habitat in this area specifically. So that was mentioned. The tadpoles, as you first enter that, you know, like that first culvert, I guess, that you kind of go over. There's all of those tadpoles there. Then also he mentioned at the edges of the forest clearing towards the big field in the back, owls, owl habitat and owl pellet sightings. And there's an assumption that there's probably some eagle nests in the area. So those are like just items that have come up already that we will punt to Kelt about. But I think we've talked about how can we make this trail engaging to all different ages, and then also really specify what's really specific and unique to Bodenham and this specific place. So it was interesting to hear from somebody who brings their 4-year-old, who also has always lived here and used to camp in this area. So I thought that those were pretty interesting topics to maybe cover. So if there's other things.
Will the invasives be removed when we're putting the trails in, or do we not know?
I didn't talk to Rec or Public Works, but I'm sure that they try to. You know.
Good question.
And I should-
We have to consult with the.
I should mention that the sign that's at the beginning of the Cadence Trails, Cadence River Trails, the distances that are mentioned on that, I had done using an app, and I thought, you know, those numbers just don't seem right to me, and I redid it. And those numbers are wrong, so I just want maybe Kel to have a more accurate app and walk each of those trails and correct those distances that are on that sign that's at the entry.
On that note,
Yeah, that'll be community geos.
That's what I was thinking, and then
Yeah.
we'll help with the trail, we'll do the
Yeah.
trail.
have we used Google Earth?
I was using something called Relive or Relive.
Okay,
It was the app, somebody had suggested that as the way to mark the distance, and so that's what I used when I walked each of the blue, orange, and yellow trails. And recently in doing it again, I don't think those numbers are accurate.
I know from experience that Google Earth has very good distance measurement. I've
Yeah.
taken our property and measured it, and it's good to like within a few inches.
The issue, I don't know if this would be an issue for that or not, but is it your cousin, Jason, who's the cross-country coach?
Yeah.
And I'm so thrilled that the cross-country team has used those trails for meets. But the issue is that they've mowed other paths throughout the meadow. So it's a little confusing now. Our original trails, I know our originals because they're marked, but then there are these other cutaway trails throughout for the cross-country.
It looks like Toby mowed around a down tree and he's aware.
The intention was to have the entire meadow bush hog, but they didn't have the manpower to get to that, so we
Yes.
only had the trail for what was running, but
Yes,
the intention is to have the entire thing.
I
and
think
maintain.
the fire department has often burned it as well, which has helped to keep down the tick population.
Yeah.
But I don't think they get to it every year.
No, and it's becoming a struggle to do it. The state's cracking down on control.
Driver doesn't help.
Yeah.
So Wendy, in the spring, since you know those trails, Yvette and I went out, we walked the trails, we were looking, because I wasn't familiar with the area and I wanted to get immersed. Would you be willing to walk
Oh,
with
sure.
me at some point?
Right.
I mean, I can slap on my Garmin too, and we can,
But the
Do
community
some-
geo folks are
I'm
definitely
sure
gonna
they'll be
cover
going
it
out
because
with
they
the
wanna make
trail.
sure that anybody with accessibility
right,
concerns knows how far they're gonna be going and knows when they can turn around.
okay,
So they're gonna be doing
Awesome.
mile markers
So-
throughout
okay,
every trail.
Okay.
Yeah.
so we don't really need
There-
to do
there
No,
that.
was
you
a
guys don't
lovely-
need to do that.
Okay,
Bunch of volunteers every May who would gather and remark the trails. So
Okay.
there's a nice group of volunteers who have helped with that every year. And try to keep the entries to the trails obvious and open. So I'm so grateful for those folks. who
that's
helped.
great. Well, if you wouldn't mind just keeping me in
I'm
that
happy to
loop,
come.
I'd love that,
Sure.
just to have a little more of a feel. Even though community geo will do the technical piece, it would still be nice to have.
Yeah, if we're talking along with the trails and where it actually goes, and we're going on to the natural / man-made structures, there is a section of that yellow trail that is impassable at various times because of the depth of the water. You know, so there is a section close to the stream. So I
We talked about that a lot, Joanne, about what it would take to make it passable, you know, in terms of little bridges or wooden logs or whatever.
So are they in the planning, so we don't have to have informational signs about high tide, don't go there now, you know? Or I'm just wondering what the plan for change is there. When we were first planning the trail, part of the conference, what were we doing that? Who knows?
It was,
Anyway,
you know, it was comprehensive
But
planning.
can't
was
we have a
started on
long time ago?
this. Yes,
We actually had some college kids come throw rocks, more rocks in there.
Yeah.
Because at the time, we had somebody from DEP on our committee who said, I don't think you can make much change there. It's a DEP. We'd have to request permission, I think, for any kind of structure that we put down there. So it's just, it's a question first of what are we going to change, and then what do we say about the natural and man-made structures? Because if we have, if we do add a bridge, we should say this is lowland that is naturally covered by high tides and spring floods, etc. Right, so
Our
therefore
head-
we have different kinds of flora and fauna here or something. It's just it's a bigger question because we don't know what the structure will be.
our handicapped accessible assessor guy, is it Enoch? He would have some very strong ideas about those bridges, those things for. And we talked about it with him when he came that day, and so he would be, I don't think there's any plan for anything
Okay,
right
so
now.
Okay, so that's a
That's our-
future.
That's our triple black diamond.
Here we go.
You know, Enoch
We're gonna have some
did
side.
say, though, in defense of that, you know, not every trail has to be fully
Yes.
accessible. It's
Yes.
okay. I mean, if you have accessible trails, it's okay that some are not, they're more challenging.
Right,
And maybe it's not passable when there's an extreme high tide, as long as that's noted on the signage and
Right,
indicated.
That's what I was
that-
kind of thinking.
Right.
Because
Right.
at the moment, you have to have I have to wear fairly high boots at high tides and walk down with the dog.
Right.
And I go down there fairly often.
and actually, the alternative that was floated was rather than somebody going on that yellow trail, there was a plan for another trail off the blue trail that would get over. That would be a walkway, a handicapped walkway kind of thing, that would be an alternative, that would be better.
Yeah, because I don't think.
Because there's an
really-
obvious cut to the left at one point off the blue trail. That would be very nice to have a planked walkway for accessible.
And the yellow trail is fascinating for some of its diversity in animals and water and rocks and et cetera. So.
Do you have any specifics?
What I want to know more before we said anything is, so that part of the trail being only accessible really at lower tides. It's mud and water at high tide all the time. Unless it's frozen.
I put down accessibility issues, wet conditions that Catherine's
Yeah,
mentioned.
yeah.
I mean, I'm gonna leave that kind of stuff up to,
Right.
you know, screw. But I'm looking for
I feel
like,
like the natural man-made structure is part of what the historical sort of stuff we were talking about also. You know, some of the old shipbuildings, some of the old fertilizer mill. Is that
It
what
sort
we
of
want?
connects.
Right.
Yeah,
Dave, didn't you say that there's like a platform out there? Like a cement something, maybe that's a thing of.
Yeah, I was gonna talk with Frank about that, to see, yeah, we can find a map and then I'll point that out.
Well, do you know what it is? You,
No, I
you
don't,
want
I'd
any-
love to find out what that is. but,
okay, well, I'll just put cement pad.
Yeah, cement pad at the end of the peninsula, I guess, might
At
be.
the end of the yellow trail.
No,
It's,
It's kind of in the middle.
it's not on, no, it's,
Oh.
yeah, we need the bigger, topo map.
outside of the park.
It's outside of the park.
No, it's,
It's inside?
yes,
Can you draw it on your handout and?
it's not, I was looking around for a map to see if we can point it out, but it's, no, I'll find something with it.
Okay, cement pad question
Anyway,
mark at
big
Dave.
natural features, just thinking big style, the one that's down there now, it's got a picture of the whole bay. I know there's a bunch of superlatives about Meeting Bay, where it's like one of two spots in the world where two rivers meet head on, it's got drains like half of Maine's watersheds or something, the huge amount of water comes through Meeting Bay, and so it's like some just really big ticket things
yeah,
there.
and I
And
think
it's
that's,
tidal freshwater, which is mind blowing to a lot of folks that
Right.
come up to me, it's, it goes up and down. And so you,
right.
That's explained very well in the display that's at the,
right,
in the back now.
There's
And so it seems. You don't wanna be repetitive, I suppose, but it seems.
No, I
to me
think it makes
that
sense.
A lot of that stuff
Mhm.
is very useful. People
Absolutely.
come into Bowden with they need to know how far it is down to get in, how to get across the bay.
Well, and also be really clear where it is.
I think that's really important.
That's the, you know, a lot of people down at the park, it's like, which way is the bay? So you
Yeah.
just really center people with
Right.
that map.
I agree.
And then sort of the superlatives, like Dave was saying, why does it matter, right? Like these.
And that may end up being two signs, that may
That's what I
carry
would-
that much
yeah.
weight,
Exactly.
that it will have two signs,
Or a
one
bigger
that
one.
has the map.
Yeah.
I don't think we wanna go
Okay.
bigger, I feel like you start to lose structural integrity from a signage standpoint when you go bigger
Right.
in a small way.
With a map and a
Shoot,
superlative or
yes,
something.
yes, I think that would look
Okay.
really, I mean, that's what I would recommend.
Yeah.
And honestly, you can do two signs for less money than
Yeah.
one big one if we're doing it to the
And that's
national
also
park
gonna sort of-
standard.
Call attention to it.
Correct.
Having the two
Correct.
there, people are gonna sort of naturally want to
Yes.
know, oh, it's something, yeah.
The
Yes.
model that came to mind for me is like at Height of the Land or on the top of Cadillac Mountain, how they'll have a series of
Yes.
signs that sort of focus on slightly different things.
Right.
But I love those series of signs. They also seem to be very long lasting, the way the materials that are used in those.
Yes.
Also, the real benefit of the end of the yellow trail is that it's like a very nice flat little spot. I believe Hillary did a bench for that spot. And that's another place where you're looking out at the Cathans. So you could put some of a sign there for facts about the Cathans and the flow or the title or whatever, like David was mentioning. That could be another spot for that kind of information, because you're looking right at it. And it's a very restful spot. It's worth going down that trail because it's such a nice endpoint.
That would also look toward the smelt shack area.
It would.
which
You're beyond it.
I think we should talk about smelting somewhere in
I
there.
like that. too.
Two winters without ice. Let's see, this year.
I'll be historical here in another couple of years.
Right, it's not history yet.
I guess snow goes here too.
One of the other things we have at the beginning of the trail is signage, Lee and I worked on that bulletin board, signage about ticks and signage about brown-tailed moths. I think that's helpful. I see that in other locations where hikers need to be alert.
I think that there's, whether it's that bulletin board that is there or a new one that matches the rest of the signage.
Right.
One of the signs was a bulletin, changeable bulletin board for the end of the trail that may even encompass like current threats as you speak about, or even, things that are going on in town. So as a hiker hops on, they may want to say, oh, by the way, Celebrate Modenham is happening now. And then if I could use that as a sounding place for other things happening in town to draw people back. Because I think that's our point, to make people want to continue to come to Modenham, right? Yeah. Yeah, that's a great idea. Definitely should include that.
Other cool features, there's that little pond, to your right as you're headed in, it's sort of cut off from the road, it's a neat. little,
Is that the tadpole area
to
the right as you come?
as you are coming into the meadow, going up a hill, there's a pond on the right. Almost
And if you know, is it here?
back in the
It's,
meadow. Yes.
it's kind of in, it's kind of
It's
in
right
here.
where there's that culvert that goes across.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah, just little, it's really small.
Yeah, it's like the side of this room, maybe.
Would it be sort of, yeah, is it pond, but it's stretched,
Yeah.
call it, but it's.
Back here.
Still. So we should
Huh.
find out what lives there.
Yeah.
That might
Yeah,
be-
I think I don't ever want to do it.
It's like marshy, well, Definitely standing water though.
I may just avoid it because it's being done.
Yeah. So you know,
it's-
mosquitoes breed
Yeah,
there.
I know what you're talking about.
Okay.
It's pretty small.
Pretty small, yeah.
Yeah.
It's like, it's.
A pool. like-
Oh,
like-
Yeah, I wouldn't call it.
You're right.
But before that, where there was a trailer that burned down, whatever, there's at that point where the peninsula goes out, that goes to the concrete pad. That is some mystery thing there.
Do you know about the call?
You know,
No, sounds,
I found the survey.
sounds like a voice.
Yeah, right, so.
Yeah, there.
Okay.
So here's,
I mean, are we,
All right.
the flora and fauna environmental, you talked a little bit about that before.
Yeah.
Sounds like Kelly's gonna take a lead on that. Do we need more on that one tonight?
Just only if someone.
Yeah, there was just some like kind of
Like
nuanced
why
places that.
nine-tail the Bodenham unofficial flower, you know, we need to have like, I need to know these things.
I have no idea.
Do we wanna talk about that? Do we wanna talk about any specific trees? Do we wanna talk about marsh grass or?
It would be
Anything
interesting to identify native and invasive.
Yes.
Okay,
Some
I like
kind of,
that.
no, the next one.
On flora.
No,
Yeah, and the flora
Flora.
one.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Natives and invasive.
Yeah, just because I'm not very educated about that, and I'm curious about that. You know, what am I looking at that's native, what am I looking at that's invasive?
Especially things like that, the native plants that the guy was just talking about. Because some have invasive. I mean, plants that are very similar. I don't know the difference. Some of the winterberry. But I'm not gonna be, yeah.
Talking about the flora fauna, and are there any stories or environmental aspects that should be noted?
That's why the sheep came.
Yeah, got some goats in there.
Yeah, poison ivy is increasing with the change in climate and broadening out from the edge of forest into meadows.
Right.
So that might be something just of interest for people too, is that, you know, you may see more poison ivy because climate change, edge of forest, between the forest and the meadow.
I wonder if talking at all about, and I don't know how broad we wanna go with, like the wild rice in the bay. Pretty
Oh,
interesting.
Yes, thank you.
Yeah, that's
Yes.
great.
Yeah.
It's in the bay, it's not really in the river.
Well, that's the thing.
No,
I know.
no.
I mean, I think it's
But
fascinating,
you
but
do have some wonderful tidewater marshes in there.
yeah.
Yeah,
That are, unless you're.
So-
With the area, you don't really know what that is, but.
Whether the
Curtis.
rice talking
Curtis.
about that would be
Is
more of
next
a Mary
to
Meeting Bay
Wild
factoid, or
Okay.
whether that would be for a fauna slide, I don't know, but. To me, it's a big draw for the waterfowl. It's been a
Yeah.
historical
Oh,
draw
here
for
we
Native
go.
Americans. It's
well,
been-
and I was just, thank you for the Native Americans, because I was wondering if we wanted to, Harold Prince and Bunny McBride, who live in Bath, are experts on the native settlement, and they know about the native background of Mary Meeting Bay. So I don't know if you'd like to introduce that element in any of the signage about the natives in Mary Meeting Bay.
I think that would be a great thing to have actually on the big sign, some acknowledgement that we live on territory originally owned and maintained and all of that by the native cultures.
I could give you their contact, Robin Harold's.
Okay.
Some kind of succinct statement, at least, at a very minimum.
There are land acknowledgement.
Yeah, kind of land
Statements that,
acknowledgement or
right.
some specific. I don't know
Which
if it-
sign would you?
I would put it on the big one that shows the river and the
The
bay
bay,
and all of
okay.
that. I will put it. Cause you already get, more people are likely to see that, and I think you.
Than any of them, yeah.
I agree.
Yeah, and I think the rice relates to the natives.
Could be, yeah.
So when I first came to Bodenham and bought the building that I'm in now, the name on the building was Duckwater Place. And I was told, and I don't know if this is true, and maybe you can confirm, that that was the original name of Mary Meeting Bay, was
Yes.
Duckwater
Some
Place.
people would say that, yeah.
So I named the corporation Quabacook LLC, which the Native American word for Duckwater Place is
Cool.
Quabacook. So, yeah, I say let's include that.
Yeah, well, Harold's done a lot of research about the origin of the name, Mary Meeting,
Mhm.
and he could fill you in on all that.
Okay.
Which could also be included in that slide,
That's
right?
interesting.
Why is it called Mary?
BACOOK.
That's great.
You put a V or a B in there.
Windy.
Do they speak to groups? Oh, sure.
Quabacook, is it Quabacook?
Would you mind
We don't
sharing
know.
that information
Seems more
with the team?
Okay.
We always looking for interesting things for our lunch.
That's great.
Sure, I could talk to Maureen.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, Bunny
Wait,
did
I'm
a,
sorry, I went off on a side track, I
Come back.
apologize.
They tend to be kind of secretive about it. The state museum has probably done some archaeological digs up in there, but I think they're probably further out of the point past the town land.
yes,
Yeah.
Pretty sure they've been some out there.
And across.
I was on a dig that was on the other side of the bay.
Yeah.
Near the
presidential.
eastern- near the eastern river going in.
I feel like the maps and directions we've talked some about with sort of the map of the bay, the river out. I don't know how much more we wanna.
Oh, you want all the points on the trails themselves. Right?
The wayfinding, right? Is that what we're getting into? Yeah.
Yeah, they'll have, they're gonna do a full map of the entire trail system. And
Then
then
we'll
like
do trail
key
markers too.
what you're, how to
Yeah.
navigate it and that
So
kind
are the
of thing.
maps and directions kind of like that way to Brunswick, that way to Richmond, or are they the town, Marion Hall? Is that?
No, not that kind of stuff.
What is it that you want on maps and directions?
Well, one of them, we were talking about like having, okay, this many miles to get to the Merrimack Bay, this many miles upstream to the mill. Things about like, hey, there's pilings under the bridge,
Oh,
like
Yes.
freaky deaky stuff that you need to know, like you're about to head out, like what do you need to know?
And I think that all should go with
Definitely
that centrally
don't swim.
located map of the bay, right? What, is that the plan to have all that information?
Yeah, I think that there should
Yeah.
be information, well, I mean, I'm asking you guys, but I do think that people kind of need to know how far they're gonna be headed one way or
A
another.
number of folks asked the select board for some kind of signage at the new non-motorized put-in because of the fast water, et cetera. Can we add that kind of signage here, or is that a different issue?
Yep.
Yeah, so there were, a fair amount of concerns about the depth of the water and the speed of the water, and that there is kind of that.
Concerned about people swimming in there.
Yeah, swimming in that particular location right after the bridge
Yes.
in particular.
Right,
Because of the current and the turbulence, et cetera. And I think but they're rebuilding they're doing some work on the Green Bridge this year to get some of those pilings, et cetera, gone. I think that's part of the bridge project. That will be next year.
I don't know that they're doing anything in the water, they're working on the bridge itself. I'm not aware of anything happening with like the pilings,
Yeah.
I don't, it's a piling's been there.
Oh, no, perhaps not then.
Yeah.
May have been just
Yeah,
wishful thinking.
No, it was a different.
You would make your.
Just, we have to be careful with the verbiage on that stuff, we've been down this road with liability, if you start saying. There's a danger and if you're talking about swimming, then you create a liability on the town if somebody does get hurt. Where that's the reason there's no
No
signage
swimming.
there currently.
Okay,
Right, but a sign that
When you put the
says,
sign up, then you've gotta police it.
okay.
we'd have to check, that particular sign we would create and then have, it reviewed by our lawyer.
Sure.
So you still need to have some of that information, but it can't be caution.
Right.
So in here, it's gotta be more informational.
So
The
wicked.
current of the river ranges from X to X.
Yeah.
Something more informational.
And maybe just swim at your own risk,
I don't,
No, you
Think-
can't
or
even.
you can't even do that, okay.
I think we have
Well,
to
you
check.
write that one,
well, so yeah, we draft some up and then I think we would have to.
yeah,
have
for
it
sure,
checked by the town attorney.
okay,
The select board has spoken, talked about this before.
okay.
in the
Yeah.
recent past.
Should you put fish under flora and fauna?
Yes.
Yeah.
Sturgeons.
Some smells.
Yeah, and again, Ed Friedman,
Seal.
as your expert on that.
Hi, Vet, it's Lee. Just going back to the idea about the signs and risk and caution, I completely understand what Jason's talking about. But I'm wondering if there isn't a way to really sort of address it as things you may not be able to see here, or did you know that it's going to take so much time to go out if the tide's at your back? And so much more time to come back in,
That's bad, but yeah.
you know, something that's informational about the challenges maybe of whatever you're doing down there, but that doesn't address risk. I think there's a way to do that.
That's a good idea.
And I do think that's what we had talked about and never acted on, is it's got to be informational and.
Okay.
Yeah.
Like,
I wonder with, I love the idea of talking about it being titled, right? In other words, that, and maybe it's a link to a tide chart or something. To give people, you know, talk about the tide and then
Right.
link to the tide station for boating. You know, to give people.
That's a great
We
idea.
do get
Yeah.
questions about the tides.
And that could be a, you know.
You're
thing.
right.
So it could be
QR code, yeah.
an educational sign.
And then here's the tides, and you can have a.
Here are the tides.
Yeah.
and the height of the tides. The height here varies.
Right.
between
Yeah.
6 feet.
Right.
Yeah, and to make sure we're talking, I think that, yeah, to talk about the tides, I mean, this is a tidal. Flowing river both ways, right?
Yes,
Yeah.
Very good point. Where do you put the tides under? Natural?
I didn't even tell you about the fact that really the water stays here. The leakage out to the bay. He could even
That's
say
right.
what that is. It's very minimal because it's just moving back and forth. So what actually exits is not a lot, and that's why any kind of poison into, or any kind of, what am I trying to say, into there, it just stays there. Thank you, pollution. Thank you, Frank, I'm losing it.
Under man-made structures, you should have the railroad, I would think.
That was
It's kind of a border.
I was gonna mention that too, they're looking ahead to the future with Merry Meeting Trail quite likely coming up through there from the railroad. Is there
Hmm.
a way to think ahead and have a tie-in with the railroad, or do you just have something historical about the railroad, something that's interesting to that piece that ties the Merry Meeting Trail to our park system? Because there will be a lot of
Right.
entering and exiting there down the road.
Yeah, we
Good
did
talk.
have the depot.
Right, I was gonna
listed
say.
somewhere in here. Main Central Railroad Depot, New Park and Railroad Tracks. I think some of the placement of the really great sign that we've seen that has the depot. Not sure that the park's gonna be really ready, or that would make sense to place, but it's on here. We can figure it out.
Well,
But I think that's good to maybe make that sign. We probably gonna have more signs to
Another-
eventually
Right.
make as well. You do
It will
a
have
whole-
its own
Yeah.
needs.
Merry Meeting Trail will have some signs. Do they?
Oh, yeah.
We
Right.
have that outside. And we have kind of a interchangeable information section. That's a place we could say, Merry Meeting Trail coming, planned to be here, watch for it in the next 2 years or whatever. 5 years.
Don't jinx it.
Of that, any part of this, like under the maps and directions, is any part of this signage like an informational sign at the roadway, like the gazebo and the big boat launches over there and the handicap accessible boat launch and trails are over there, like at the roadway, at the entrance?
Bathrooms that way.
Bathrooms, yeah,
Yeah, potentially.
I didn't know if that was.
Well, I was trying to figure out like, when are we gonna name the new park and when, cause that's. But I think that, I mean, this, it goes along with everything. It's just, the interpretive signage is sort of what the grant was about. And the wayfinding is what we sold it upon, but I'm not to say that that doesn't fit within economic development, like we literally are trying to bring people to these parks.
I keep
So I
looking
think
to
so.
that because she knows how far we can stretch the description of the grant where I have no idea. I will do whatever.
So one side of the park is named, the other side of the park needs a name. Correct?
Yes.
Yes.
Or, well,
So direction to gazebo, boat launch.
boat launch.
Or it's just one, or it's just one park. with
Or
one name.
just
Trails.
considered one park? Well, I was thinking about when you all were talking about the Native American aspect of this, having that side, the new park named to honor them. Do we know what the tribes that work here, if that's a way to ask that question?
Abenaki people. Harold can,
Yeah, I
Yes,
wonder if
yes,
we could do a little research with that, just an idea to throw out there.
I think you should send that to the town manager.
So there is some effort afoot to provide recommendations for names for that new park.
Yeah, it's been out for quite a while.
It's been, and
Yeah,
it
where does
hasn't
that
made any
stand?
motion, so I don't know where that's headed.
I asked Nicole if she could please get that dealt with by the end of March to be incorporated into this process.
Okay.
So hopefully that works out.
And it'll be a different name, there'll be
Yeah. it'll
there'll be
two.
different names.
Unless somebody recommends Manly Park 2.
East, west,
Oh, yeah.
north, south.
But who, yeah,
I mean, I think part of our thought.
it's
was
just, yeah, go ahead.
with the signs on both sides to sort of start integrating them. Right, with the same look of the sign, and you talked about that, to sort of start thinking about these
Yes.
as
For sure.
a integrated park.
Yeah.
Right,
Yeah, like, having a connectivity between them is also part of, this whole walkability aspect,
Right.
with, the, consultant for that talked about making it feel kind of like as you come across the bridge, that you are sort of, you're entering, you're passing through a continuous park
Yes.
area.
Yeah.
As well, so, yeah, it seems like merging them in some sort of way in name and aesthetically would be cool, if we can.
Yeah, the select board
I don't know.
voted for a change order to change the entrance on the new park to move it in one direction.
so they could, yeah.
So that it'll be more in line, so it's not exactly in line, but it'll make it easier the next time we have a different grant to move the one from Manly Park.
Gotcha.
So that's already in process, rather than moving both along.
So this
Instead
will
of
be
moving Manly Park along.
closer to the yellow house, basically.
Yes, it'll be closer to the other.
And also how to slow things down through there too.
Yeah.
That's-
Traffic calming.
Yes.
Yeah. Instead of calling.
Traffic yoga.
Well, that's a lot. I love that.
That's really great.
It's really helpful.
Give some direction.
Yeah. I mean, that's what we need to start doing some graphic components. is-
Yeah, and I wanna say the flora and fauna environmental pieces need to be really informed by Kelt and, the. Freeman?
Ed Friedman, yeah.
Before, I mean, we kind of talked a little about the broad stroke that they'll do.
Sure.
Well, this has been quite instructive and it's been very helpful.
It really
This
has.
is quite a base to work from, and so this brainstorming session worked exceptionally well. Thank you very much.
Appreciate all of your time and input for sure.
The next steps is that Robin is going to bring back a analysis and recommendations draft at next meeting in February. All of these meetings are occurring during CDAC's regularly scheduled first Tuesday of the month at 6:30. So if folks want to keep joining in. But really, the next public meeting where we're really engaged like this again is April 1st. And at that point, we're gonna have 2 different design concepts developed and presented. So that will be looking kind of at aesthetics of the sign and that kind of thing. So a little bit more exciting, maybe see some, you know, potential like examples.
For sure.
And then basically the final concept will be revealed in May. And in June, you will see basically a full package that will include the wayfinding signage with community geo and then the interpretive signage. And that at that point, we're then going to put out the RFP to fabricate the signs and hoping that they would be fabricated by the end of July at the latest, hopefully, so they can be installed ASAP. They need to be installed by the end of August for sure, but the sooner the better. Yeah, so that's it.
Excellent.
And I just want to say, I love our town signs. When you think about how those went in around 2014, so those are 10 years old, our entry signs. I'm so grateful for them that they stood up as well as they have. They look great.
They're pretty darn resilient.
They've
They
been-
look nice and they're 10 years old, a lot of them.
There was one in front of our house that got mowed down by a plow that's gone forever, but other than that.
So in my initial thinking, and just, I know everybody wants to go home real quick, and that kind of spurt. I was thinking about the design, and obviously we're gonna keep these to a traditional interpretive sign style. But maybe incorporating some of the color and just a tiny bit of what the signs that we have now to bring people to the waterfront and just connect them in some way. So that is in my thought process with design, maybe keeping even if it's background color. I'd like to keep the structures all the same color. I'm thinking dark brown right off, but this will all be options for folks. Especially because custom paint is much more costly for the town and we want to get as much out of this. So you have this little personal thing, I'm really frugal on one side, so to make sure you get the biggest bang for the buck of the grant, but at the same time, visually connecting what is in existence at the moment to the new signs, so.
So what we boiled it down with all those design elements on those entry signs, we boiled it down to the item that's on the back side, which are the cattails and the ducks.
Yeah.
That was the item, the
Right.
thing we all agreed would be really the look or the logo, I guess.
I know Public Works loves that too.
And the light blue calls much more attention to
Yeah.
the sign than.
Stands right now.
For wayfinding, I think it's good. For interpretive, not so much,
Not
because I
so
think it
much,
just
is it?
detracts from the natural surroundings. I think you've really, just my opinion,
Yeah, yeah.
in
about-
that site.
What about
maybe-
green as the logo, the seal of the town is green? The Botan seal.
For keeping it inside the sign design?
Well, if that green, if we use it green,
Oh, sure,
you know, something.
sure. Absolutely. Okay, that's all. I just had a sideways thought.
That's great.
I needed
No,
to-
that was a good thought. Yeah.
Thank you very much. We have to move on to our old business.
Thank you.
Thanks for participating.
Thanks, everyone. I'll get it back.
Great.
to you.
The most we've had in a while,
Yes,
so.
all right. Thank you.
Robert, I don't have a book on the confidence, the Mary Meeting Bay confidence, that we'd like to loan.
But that would be awesome.
Now, this is.
Thank you.
I'm giving it to you.
Post you.
Can I just?
It's all right. Okay.
Oh, yeah.
Use my name.
Hey, Dave,
Yes.
have you ever watched
I
the
suggest.
show on Acorn called Broken Wood?
Nope. Is that it?
I'd recommend it for you.
Broken Wood.
Broken Wood
Okay.
on Acorn.
That's right. What's Acorn?
Acorn is a streaming service.
Oh, wow.
It has Australian and New Zealand and
And
British.
he
well,
is the expert on.
TV
Native
show.
Americans
Frank.
in the area,
Frank.
the
Be in touch.
settlement,
And
the
and
origin.
Might know.
The farmer.
New Zealand has a motif in the middle term
Right.
from J.R.R.
Right.
Tolkien. And one of the characters in
All right.
Tolkien told,
I'm,
was a guy by the name of Frodo.
Location.
Right.
Yeah,
This is doppelganger
all right.
for Frodo.
I know it's for agriculture, but it looks pretty clear.
Talks just like him, has a lot of the same manner.
That's just the whole, yeah, you gotta watch the show.
All about women here.
Okay,
Oh, wow.
okay.
Check your email.
Is an expert as well. Harold's more,
And you put out the
Detail.
conflict
Very
committee
good.
agenda.
Regard.
you know.
Now, what are you laughing about?
Piece of thing, so you
Well, that was
should
helpful.
see Bunny, when
Okay,
you write Harold.
okay.
This is
And
great.
then mention my
Yeah,
name.
one of the things I was thinking about
Because she
all this
keeps them on
discussion
track.
was going on.
Fun.
If we talk about
Funny,
QR
like
codes
that.
on some of these signs,
Thank you
Yeah.
very much, Wendy.
that means we need to have, a backup correlation, I can put on the Bodenham website. Those QR codes can take you to and give you more information
Exactly.
or current title information, all that stuff.
Yeah,
And
Yeah.
so that would be something I can take on as a project.
great.
Look at you
I
go.
heard that.
I love that, because we were talking about that in,
You gotta have somewhere to point them,
Yes.
relevant.
yes, and
Yeah.
something that can be kept up
Yeah.
and
And so
consistent.
Nice.
if we, I could set that up in our, on our website. And have it a hierarchy, a tree hierarchy of. Mimic the sign itself and then additional information if you want, you know, like if you're talking about this historical stuff.
That's amazing.
You could go from what you can put on a 2x3 sign
Yes,
to multiple pages and almost a book format
I
with
love that.
pictures and everything. That explains it in further detail.
that would be great. Yvette and I talked about that today, and it came up with the community geo folks that we were talking about their recommendations for making all these sites more, well, to be accessible for the most part. And she mentioned the QR code, so something in Braille. Guiding someone to, there is a QR code here, and I don't know the technology that's used in that
QR code is
situation.
essentially a web link.
Right,
It's
I
a
know
URL.
that technology, I
Wow,
don't
for
know
the
the
brand.
technology about the accessibility
Right.
piece. So that they would be able to go to the website
Yeah.
and get the information. But then there's a piece that actually reads that information.
Yeah, just
with
audio.
AI, and they get all the audio.
Right, yes.
But we
could have-
started with your piece that, oh, well, who's gonna, do the website, so that would be really cool, because that brings
The
it
web
full
page though
circle.
itself might need to have code behind it that'll like automatically read it out loud. I'll
Okay,
have to look into that.
That would be another add-on we'd have to put on. into our-
Well, that was-
It's either that or maybe
Maybe.
there's a way that we could do like audio recording. And figure out,
Oh.
I don't really know, we
I don't know
need to talk
either,
to them
but it's,
about
I mean,
that.
that's a cool
Be a link
thing.
to Frank Connors just
Talking.
talking
Yeah.
about a number, you know?
Oh, yes,
I don't know him, who is he?
He's a town sexton.
so he's basically the cemetery
Yeah.
dude.
Yeah.
But
He,
he's not, so, I mean.
He's
he
like the
used
town historian.
To
on
live
Grill.
here.
Yes,
He's, I think, they moved to the Highlands or something or somewhere.
yeah, he's in Brunswick.
He's in Brunswick
Yeah.
now.
But he lived here for years and.
We could record him, he has a nice voice.
Yeah.
He used to do sort of talks. Maybe I could go to just.
Yeah,
Yeah, he's
David
just a
Attenborough.
wealth of knowledge
Right, really interesting, yeah.
and humor.
Right.
I've had dealings with him through the cemetery,
Wow.
and we actually did a bumper sticker for him that said, so instead of take me to Parkview, the hospital sign,
Right.
we did the take me to Bayview with the coffin on it. Oh my God, it's like really, you're selling plots in your cemetery and stuff, but that was his deal.
We've
So,
got about 12 minutes
Right.
left of our time.
all right, shut up, Robin.
No, it's all right, I didn't say that.
What you were thinking.
That's part of the deal, get us out of here by 8, so I appreciate it.
On the mural updates, I had promised a draft for you guys, which I don't have of the fall artist, so I'll have that for the next. Okay, our next meeting, Yvette has clearly done a lot of work, getting people to vote here. which is awesome. I did not expect Waterways and Nature to be running away with it, but
Yeah, it really is. I have
seems to
55, well, when I wrote this note the other day, 55 online said, which was 73% nature, 18% ag, 9 for arts. And then you've got this going on here as well. And I actually had an inquiry today. I'm not gonna share any more about it, but
Sure.
I have an inquiry today of somebody who wants to be put on the contact list for when the call to artists goes out. So people are actually trolling Facebook for these opportunities, and this person isn't like a local person at all. So I just said, I'm gonna put you on a list,
Yeah.
but when we get there, you know, so that was kind of neat. Oh, and next meeting, I'll bring this up. I'll bring it up with you, but there is a grant. And we're going to talk about it. But it has to do with art. It's an art,
Yeah.
so I'm thinking another
was that
mural.
you didn't email about that, did you?
Well, I did, because tomorrow there's a webinar about it, and I went
Oh.
forward, and since we're talking about it, I went forward to look at it.
Yeah.
To see like, okay, what's this about? Well, it's $7,000, one-to-one match. I gotta look at the timeline again, because I think that you basically have to start paying out, did I print it out? I think you have to, the project is sometime through June of next year. So if we did a second mural, the artist would need to be paid and everything would need to be done by the end of next June. However, with the timing of the call to artists that we're dealing with now, is there a way that we could just make both sides of the bathhouse? I mean, you know, like, go ahead and do the call to artist now, like, don't
Yeah.
wait for that, but put out another one fairly soon after, and we could tweak the process or whatever. For the other side of the bathhouse, and I'm just saying, like, I know it's still the bathhouse, but this is a quick burn and it's only $7,000, and so basically we could get 2 murals for the cost of one. If we wanted to try to associate both of those together, or, you know, yeah.
It's not quick of a turnaround, this grant.
Yeah, so I wanted to talk about it next meeting and agree upon if that's the thing to do, and then make sure I get the select board in on it, and then put together the grant. But it seems like working on the call to artists next meeting is great, because we shouldn't have like we're not doing a lot of this, like you'll have something that you guys can read, and we won't have a lot of this, but I think that if we're starting to work on the call to artists, that it totally like jives with what we have to explain in this grant application. And I think it's a new grant. And I don't know how much money they have,
I
but
grew up with that guy from the state guy who's. on the
okay. Yeah, he like reached out to Nicole directly and me
Yeah.
CC'd, and I was like, kind of curious, like, if, I mean,
It's a state agency?
yeah.
Yeah.
It wasn't like a blanket email, it was like to us.
Oh.
I don't know why,
Yeah. That's great.
yeah. So,
Right about mine.
oh,
Is there any update on the VPI?
yeah, so we're still waiting for an internal review meeting for their latest draft, which is really just dealing with the whole turnaround in one-way street, or what they might want to do down there. So we still haven't had like any conclusion on
Okay.
that front, but the grant needs to be wrapped up this month. So they
When
need
is
to have a
the-
public display of the final thing before the end of this month.
Yeah, when's the next public? There has to be another public meeting, right?
Right, this month.
2 more,
This month.
Yeah,
I believe.
it's gonna be like showing you what it is.
Yeah, showing the update
It's
of
gonna be-
revised.
And
Yeah.
it's the last sort of pickle, that area.
Yeah.
And the rest is gonna be probably pretty similar, it's just. that.
Yeah, I think that's all
Yeah.
pretty much agreed upon. It's just a little bit more about that. And then they have to also write up a document with like the costs.
Yeah.
So it's still
And then
going.
that will be a plan, and then what happens?
Yeah, oh, and then Steve Cole is gone. He just retired,
Oh,
Oh,
but I
really?
already have the
The
new
DT guy?
contact.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I wanna say his
Something,
name's
yeah.
Ian, but I don't quote me. I have his contact, so he's very much aware
That's
of.
the fellow that works with him,
He was
What's
in
that?
really,
isn't the fellow that works with Steve Cole, Dakota?
really.
His first
He-
name?
Like he was
Yeah,
with
Dakota
us on that.
is another, he was the guy I'm dealing with for the sidewalk grant.
Okay.
And we should be finding out about our next round of sidewalks anytime now as well.
Yeah,
Um, So I don't 100% remember the process for the next iteration, but I'm sure that they will tell us when the grants are coming up to start
That would be
going
part
through
of
that.
Yeah,
Yeah, and once we kind of have an idea of that, I'll tee it up for conversation as to, okay, how are we gonna decide the low hanging fruit or whatever?
Yeah, and I guess sort of, I mean, will these recommendations, for example, the one way, like, does that then happen? Or is there some debate further about that?
who does it have to go through in
Like,
the
how does
town
that-
for approval?
Yeah.
I mean, this has been a public process, so it's been a public process, so we can,
Yeah.
I mean, I feel like some stuff like that will probably end up just being a demonstration project, and that's like, or if it's a three-way stop or a four-way stop, whatever it is like low cost, like, you can just do that, you know,
I guess
so.
that's what I'm wondering, like that four-way stop.
The four-way stop at,
that
on
gonna
River
just sort of-
and Main.
Yeah,
Well, it turns out the four-way stop at 197 and 201 has been a non-issue that the DOT put in last month. I go there all
yeah,
the
I mean,
time.
I just don't.
To
know
buy
the
gas at
process.
Charlene's.
Yeah, well, I mean, I
Because
feel
you
like-
can give it permission, right?
Yeah, like I think, you know, this last thing needs to go through town management,
Right,
Yeah.
you know, to confer on what they wanna do, but. From the feelings I've been getting with that one meeting that we just had a few weeks back was that. Even if we are not making the street trees and a lot of, you know, like going full on.
Yeah.
There's still opportunities to really kind of create that in a demonstration way.
less
So it could be
costly.
more of like policy, it could be more of seasonal.
Hmm.
I think that it might kind of remain a bit flexible, but I do think that they will address the parking situation in some way or another. I don't know if it means painting or not. I don't really know, but I'm pretty sure that there'll be some closure so you can move forward on something.
great, thank you. Ian, did you get everybody's name for the minutes?
I did.
Okay,
Yep.
great, thank you.
Yep.
I was trying to write them all down, I don't know.
I got 'em.
Got them correctly or not.
He is our secretary.
Secretary, it's my one job.
Wicked good, me.
I'm not timely, but thorough.
It's appreciated.
Yeah. I bet, basically.
Lee, how did this turn out for you? Could you see and hear everything everybody was saying?
Yeah, the transmission itself has a lot of static in it, so I'm getting a lot of flashing on the screen, but I could hear everything really well, so yeah, it worked.
That's great.
Yeah.
I
told
planned
him
up next time in person, but I wasn't up for it tonight, so.
That's all right, we understand.
I think it's still like an issue with the construction, because I've been plugging everything in and. Yeah. I don't know.
Alrighty, so,
Did you approve the minutes?
no, it's wasn't on the agenda, so the minutes from the last meeting of December 3rd. I've read them, but if everybody else had a chance to read them,
They look good.
okay, accepted as submitted. And since Ian submitted them, he's not gonna move them.
I approve. I approve.
Thorough.
I think that's great. Robin, thanks for being here tonight. I appreciate it. I think we're
I'm
done.
excited to get rolling on this piece of the project. I'm ready to go.
I think we're finished for tonight. And I don't know, you don't have my email address, but if you want to email me
It's gonna be cool.
some things
Yeah, I feel like
that
there's
you might
good project.
turn into a
Yeah.
webpage.
good.
So
You can do that.
Right.
Okay.
Well, I could-
It's on.
Oh.
I don't think we'll be there yet, but.
Well,